This is Patrick, and today is Sunday, December 5th, 2010. Today I'm going to cover the taxing fraud that has been perpetrated against the people of America and against the country of America. What we're dealing with is that basically we're operating in a wagering monetary system. We basically sign contracts, sign checks, sign loans, sign court case charges. Every one of these different items basically is a wagering contract in that they are using debt money in the process. Most all these contracts go through the banking system. The banking system turns around and gives us one Federal Reserve dollar to basically pay out to the system. They turn around and make up 9 Federal Reserve dollars and then put that into circulation to cause inflation. And basically that's another tax upon the people of this country and upon the country itself, because now we're paying higher prices for something that basically has not changed in value all the way back. You could take an example. A car back in the 1960s cost $2,500. If that same car today should cost still $2,500, but it doesn't. It costs $25,000. That's a 10 times inflation over the last roughly 40 years. So the bankers have been causing this. Now they turn around and with our signature, we are the creditor. We always sign on the right hand side of these checks, of these documents. Take a look at it. And the wager monetary system is a 3-year contract in that they are wagering and betting that we are not going to come forward and pay and settle the item with real asset value during that 3-year time frame. So they turn around, we give them the document, we're the creditor. And so we allow them to basically turn around and also write bonds or secret liens against our American and state combined side commissary, which really is a bank and trust, and it is a branch bank of the Central Bank of America. So they place a lien against our side commissary, and then they turn around and write bonds off against that lien. They were originally only supposed to be able to write 10 bonds against that lien, but in the past, I think, 20 years or so, started in the 1990s as far as I know, they've been able to write up to 35 times the number of bonds against that lien. The initial 10 bonds that were set up were basically supposed to be paid, we'll say at 5% interest per year. 10 bonds, that means that would be 50% return upon the value of the lien. 3 years, that would be 150%. You minus the original value of what we signed the contract for, that would be 100%. So they subtract 100% from that. They are turned around and are supposed to be paying some user interest of about 0.375% to us, and or to the corporation, United States Corporation, and then they would still end up with a profit of about 13% per year for doing nothing. They have risked nothing. They have nothing at stake. But it's all our assets that are being utilized in the process. So at the end of 3 years, a mortgage, a loan, everything is fully paid for by the interest from those bonds that they wrote. So on a 30-year mortgage, the next 27 years is pure fraud by the bankers. Now, during this process, we were supposed to be getting some tax documents. The two tax documents that we were supposed to be getting were a 1099-B and a 1099-OID. You can take a look at them. On the 1099-B, when you look at it, you will see that in block 9 and 10, one says unrealized profits or loss on open contracts. It has 1 year's date on there. 10 has the next year's date on there. The example I have is for December 31st, 2008 for line 9, and then for line 10, it shows for December 31st, 2009. That's the second year of the contract. The 2008 was for the first year of the contract. There is no third year because basically it's supposed to be settled at that end of that year. That's on the 1099-B. We do not fill out the 1099-B. The bankers are supposed to fill that out. Whoever you have a wagering contract with has to supply the form to us. Otherwise, we need to submit a 3949A against them. The 1099 OID. You look at that. I try to tell people that you cannot file that. When you look at it properly, the payer's name is supposed to be the banker, and we're supposed to be the recipient. The banker has to put down the original issue discount for the year, other periodic interest that is due, early penalty if we come forward and basically pay this, what they have, federal withholding tax. They have to withhold so much tax, and then basically they have to put it on there. We don't know what that tax is that they're withholding, or even if they have withheld anything. And then the original issue discount on the U.S. Treasury obligations, that's their information that they have to put on there. So we have to understand we cannot fill out the 1099-B or the 1099 OID, but the bankers or whoever has that contract, they are the ones that have to supply those forms to us. If they don't, we need to file a 3949A against them. You get into court, and basically there again, I try to tell people that when you get in there, you have to do a cross-complaint against them, even on a tax issue. We have not gotten all the forms that we need to properly fill out a 1040 form. We are missing very key information. And that's from the 1099-B and the 1099 OID that the bankers, the money changers, were supposed to supply to us. So this is really exposing the fraud that is in the system. Now, the public IRS is working hand in hand with these guys. because either they do not know or basically they are in cahoots with the bankers, the money changers. We already know that the court systems, the corporate court systems, are in bed with the bankers because they turn around and write charges, and then they turn around and get us under a contract, and then they turn around and work with the banks to monetize those contracts and get the bonds and get the interest off those bonds. That is the fraud of the corporate court system. So you have to start realizing what's going on. To break down the system of the wagering monetary debt contracts, it would go something like this. If it's during the first year, you would do a 1099-A for the full amount. Then you claim your out-of-pocket base assets that were held in your checking account, plus any interest that basically is supposed to be due to a 1099 OID that they were to supply us to us, with another 1099-A as claiming the abandoned property. Now, at the end of the second year, they owe 33.3% of the original loan. That came from the interest that they were accruing off the bonds. But this we need to have supplied to us by the 1099-B. So then we can cancel that amount with a 1099-C, and then we turn around and make up a 1099-A to make up the rest of the amount of the original value. We turn around and claim the base assets out of our checking account or whatever we put up there, and the interest that they are to have paid to us with a 1099 OID. And then we file another 1099-A for that abandoned property. The same thing happens for the third year if we go in and we're going to settle it within the third year of the contract. They would owe 66%, 66.6% of the debt settlement from the interest from the bonds. And they were to supply a 1099-B to show this to us so that we could cancel that amount with a 1099-C. We then turn around and make up the last third of that value with a 1099-A transferring the asset. Then we turn around and claim the initial, what we paid out of our back pocket, and the interest that we paid, plus the interest that is listed on the 1099 OID that was supposed to be paid to us with a 1099, with another 1099-A. Now, after 3 years, the contract should be fully paid for, full amount. We should have this supplied to us with a 1099-B so that we cancel the full amount of the debt with a 1099-C. We turn around and claim our base assets that we paid out of our back pocket, along with the extra interest owed from the 1099 OID on a 1099-A. After we have completed the forms or the process at whichever stage we needed to, we turn around and do a 1040 tax return form. That says tax return. It does not say tax payment. We have to claim what is ours back. We are the creditor. And for the first 3 years of that wagering contract, we are the creditor. They are the debtor. They're the principal debtor. So, if you run into any problems, you have to, I'm going to be posting a letter that I'm going to be submitting to the Treasury Department and to the IRS. The subject is IRS website addition required. And that's what I have in this letter, the complete layout of what we are supposed to be getting and what we have not gotten in the form of the 1099-D and the 1099 OID. Now, the breakdown of your settlement for the public governmental corporate taxes, it needs to be pointed out to them that you never received any of the required 1099-Ds or OIDs, so you cannot properly file a 1040 tax return. If they do not support you in getting them, then you file a 3949A against that branch of the IRS. You've identified the problem to them, and basically if they're not going to work with you, they must be in bed with the money changers. It should be pointed out that they operate purely, that the governmental corporate corporation operates purely on debt as money. They call it public debt. So to make a payment to them in the right way, it would be that we have to do a negative set-off or a negative 1040V and a 1099-C so that they can adjust their books, canceling that amount of debt money that they are using. But if they've shown any interest identified on their tax statement or tax document that they send to you that you say you owe to them, then you need to claim that interest with a 1099-A. Then after you've completed the 1099-A, you turn around and claim that back on a 1040 tax return. Now, since I stated above, early on there, that we are a private bank and trust. Our 5 commissary, our American and state combined 5 commissary is a private bank and trust. It is a branch bank of the Central Bank of Issue of America. So it is a bank. All banking transactions are supposed to be settled within a 3-day time frame. If they are not settled within a 3-day time frame, now if you do your 1040 by mail, you basically allow for 3 days out, 3 days for settlement, and then 3 days for return, and give them a grace day, a total of 10 days. But if you send it in and you're going to have a wire transfer to your account, you should have 3 days for the mail filing and then 3 days for the settlement, a total of 6 days, and it should be into your bank account. Now these are business working days. I have that in my letter to the IRS, to the Treasury Department and the IRS. I'm sending this to the Secretary of the Treasury, the Treasury Office of Inspector General, Clarissa Potter, Acting Chief Counsel for the IRS, and also to my Senior State Senator, Chuck Grassley, who is also on the Finance Committee for the government. If these guys do not act, basically, we can turn around and bring impeachment charges against them. Under the real law system of America. And that would be basically by going to the Supreme Court. The two lawful court systems in the country are the Supreme Court and the Senate of America. So if your senator's not going to be doing his job, then basically you turn around and you go to the Supreme Court. And what you would be doing would be going and filing this in to your district. Each one of the Supreme Court judges is overseeing various districts in the country. They are basically the chief law enforcement officer over those districts. And that chief law enforcement title is also known as provost marshal. We are under a judicial law system in this country, not a military law system. So, I hope that some of this makes a little more sense to you. Stay away from filing any 1099 OIDs or 1099Bs because what you've been told by these other people is dead wrong. Now, one other thing I will be putting a template up on the website that basically this will be for a filing on a cross-filing action if they take you to court. You could turn around and make this initial filing into the court system and basically turn around and put it into filing into a $39 jacket. If you're doing an initial one, you would file it into a $39 jacket at the federal district level and address it to the judge, the Supreme Court judge over your district. This is per the laws of the land of America. Cross-filing action. And it is under the right of action, the right of discussion, and the right of relief. You become the plaintiff. The bank or whoever was on the wagering money contract could even be the corporate state court or the corporate federal court as the original or principal debtor. The Federal Reserve System and the United States or state corporation. That's the big three. Like I said, the bank and or court would be the principal debtors. The Federal Reserve is in the background, and the United States or state corporations are also in the background because they were the chartering organization for the banks to begin with. You can take a look over this document, but if they take you into court, you turn around and you do a cross-filing against them. You come into court. You demand the right to begin. The right to begin also gives you the right to speak first and to speak last. They cannot talk after you have finished. Or if they say something, you have the right to get back up there and counter what they have just said. That's what the right to begin is. You have to understand your rights. Everybody thinks they know all their rights. They don't. The right of discussion is to where basically we the cautioner or surety has to insist that the creditor, okay, which is our artificial person, that's our human body, shall do his best to compel the performance of the contract by the principal debtor. The bank and the courts, they are the debtor to us. Stop letting them have their way. They owe us their existence. If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be there. Okay? So they have to pay their debt to us before we can be forced to pay our debt. And then the right of release, the right of a cautioner to demand reimbursement from the principal debtor when he has been compelled to pay a debt. This would come into play when we basically have our rights have been infringed upon or we have been harmed in any way. Okay? The required tax forms haven't been supplied to us. That is part of the right of relief. We have to get those documents. If the original wagering contract is past its 3-year settlement, then all liens are to be removed and the fully paid contract or title returned to the plaintiff, that's us, under the right of possession and the right of property. That means basically a lodio. Then the defendants also have to make the following compensation to the plaintiff based upon their false claims which originated from their own neglected actions. All court costs that have been required from the plaintiff. Compensation for any and all harm, lost time, libel, slander, caused to the plaintiff, up to the full amount of their corporate protection bonds. If any physical harm was caused, then that is an additional compensation to be addressed. And you will basically process this through a jury trial. Let them make the final determination of what should be paid by the perpetrators. I hope you are listening to these tapes. I'm not doing this to basically cause anybody any harm or anything. I'm trying to wake you up and make you understand that basically we have been deceived in almost every which way there is possible. Listen to these tapes over and over until you fully understand them. I've tried to stay away from talk shows. I've tried to stay away from all these other deals and put these tapes out individually onto the group site so that I stayed away from all the callers that come in on the line and confuse the issue. Because they are plants by the other side in most cases. Either that or they're complete idiots and they shouldn't even be allowed to use a phone. So, I'm going to end this here. I hope that this helps you understand what's going on.